What if there was a platform or a forum that would allow folks with some kind of diaspora experience to network in ways that has the possibility of altering the course of our lives in terms of resources, expertise, business opportunities, leisure, family life, or more? In this video, I'm going to show you one of the first of many series of get-togethers that we recently organized around people from diaspora and their families and their networks. Our hope is that moving forward, we are going to have a couple of these, either small or larger meetings, especially around summertime and wintertime, where we just bring folks from diaspora from all parts of the country or all parts of the continent who have common interests, common desires, similar experiences to chat about things that are really going to be transformative. So in this meeting here, we had guests from mostly North America, Canada, US. We had some folks from the UK, some folks from South Africa, and a few other parts of the world. So again, because of time and because this was very informal, we didn't do anything big. We just started with just bringing a few folks to see how this would play out. We had an opportunity to really commune with them and really share thoughts about things that really impact either current or future returnees. Now, the whole idea of bringing folks together stems from this intense need to network with people who have shared similar experience. And I'm talking about people who have spent some time outside Kenya. Because again, I've come to learn that while we all are Kenyans, we all are Africans, the experience of living away from home is quite unique, but also is very similar almost regardless of where a person has lived outside the country. And so this is something I'm very passionate about. And if you ask why, I'll explain shortly. That for one, many folks who live in diaspora love coming home, even if it's just for a short while, especially if you're coming for reasons other than problems. Some of us just show up to come spend some time, hang out, and just recharge for the most part. Unfortunately, sometimes we come back because there are problems that need to be fixed. But in general, people who have diaspora experience love coming home. And when we do, just like our peers, we often bring in quite a few resources. And a lot of us are very resourceful when it comes to problem solving and our ability to exploit opportunities. In the last couple of years, I've really been amazed about how much people are able to accomplish living at home. Whether you're talking about construction, agriculture, business, education, diasporans are doing a lot. And unless you step out of your comfort zone and meet folks out there, you may really not know how much folks are able to do. Especially this past December holidays, I have learned so much that I'm hoping I'll be able to share with you many of the lessons that I've learned throughout the year. So while many folks from diaspora seem to be very resourceful, unfortunately, all of us seem to succeed in some ways, but also struggle in other ways in our own corners. And so it's not until you meet the next diasporan and you're having conversation that you realize that, hey, that you might be doing the same thing. One person is doing well, but the other one is struggling. And in other cases, because it doesn't seem that we have very effective forums to connect, we are simply repeating these circles over and over again, to the point where, personally, I'm really proud of some of the things we've accomplished in the last year with this YouTube channel, where many folks I've encountered are really inspired to actually build their homes and are doing wonderful work just based on the inspiration from other folks. And in fact, this is where I really have to say that for the many folks who have opened up their homes and allowed us to film and share, you may never know how much you have really inspired people. Because in many cases, I've got fans who watch a video that I've done in a person's home. They come back to me, and that conversation often sparks a much bigger project. As we speak right now, I'm already in talks with more than 30 people who, for the most part, had given up on the hope of returning or had given up on even the possibility of building homes. But because of the stories we are able to share, because of the buildings we are able to share, folks are really inspired. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you are opening up your home and sharing with us, thank you so much. Thank you for doing that. And I hope you will encourage other folks again to open up their homes and allow us to share some of these inspirational experiences out there. So that said, for those who are interesting enough, there's a mosquito just jumping around while I'm recording, and it's really distracting me. So I need to, first of all, probably find a way to get rid of it. But I know you can't see it yet, but there's a mosquito flying around while I'm filming, and it's taking away my concentration. But back to where we are. As I was saying earlier, some of us are doing well, others are struggling. Same things in our own corners. And let me give you specific examples. That every single diasporan that I've talked to has some kind of a horror story regarding construction. Anybody who's tried building anything at home has some kind of a story. There are few exceptions, but most folks have the same story. Now, conversely, there are also a lot of diasporans who have figured out how to really construct excellent projects with minimal character development. So the question is, how can we have, on the one hand, people who are really suffering on matters construction, yet on the other hand, there are folks who have figured it out and are doing so well? In my mind, that simply means that these two sides are not talking. Let me give you a second example too. That a lot of diasporans have really figured out how to make money while in Kenya. This is actually one part of life that I had no idea about, because for the first couple of years when I was coming to Kenya, it was simply a matter of coming and spending the little money that we make over there. And that is not really unusual for many diasporans. A lot of us come, spend, go back and work some more, do the same thing and repeat. Yet, there are many diasporans that I've met who have figured out ways to actually make money while at home, whether they're making money from America or making money within Kenya. And one of the ways that this is really helpful is that these folks, the ones that I'm talking about, actually almost never spend the money they make in diaspora at home, because whatever they make at home is actually able to sustain their basic expenses. And I thought that would be really wonderful. If you didn't have to spend that much money from diaspora, you come home and whatever you have here sustains your life in Kenya, that would be really wonderful. So how come, again, one group spends, have not figured out a way to make money here, while another group is doing the exact opposite and really doing well? It speaks to the same issue I mentioned earlier, that it appears that there is not an effective forum where we are able to connect and share some of these things. In fact, I might even go further and argue that the majority of diasporans, particularly in my circle, are more on the struggling side, who are still figuring out that we work hard, come back here, spend, and we've not figured out how to make the best of the opportunity at home. So, what if we all were in a place where we could simply come home and just live on whatever we were able to make away from diaspora? I honestly think that if this were possible, a lot of the people in diaspora would come home a lot sooner than possible currently. Because the truth is, many of us are stuck in diaspora because of financial reasons. Because that is where we employ, that's how we make our daily bread. And so it's very hard to detach from diaspora if you've not figured out a way to make money at home. So I see there are opportunities up here. And the point I'm trying to make here is that people who live in diaspora have a lot to offer to each other. People who live in diaspora still have a lot to offer to the community. There are many cases where individually we work and do things and it works. But then there's cases where when you connect with folks, your capacity to do things exponentially grow. I've seen folks get together and do some really big projects. And I've also seen folks get together, get ideas and implement them individually. I know our community is slightly different than the examples I see in the Somali community, where a lot of people get together, pool resources, and pull off massive projects. That's fine, but I know that that's still ways ahead for those of us in our communities. However, in these forums, people can still pick up new ideas and in the individual spaces implement the same thing. For example, let's assume 5 of us running hospitals in Kenya. And this is sort of like a network of hospitals that are sort of run independently, but still leverage the collective power of working as a team. So that, say, when you're doing licensing, when you're doing procurement, when you're doing hiring, you can pull from each other's systems. Or we run it in such a way that each hospital sort of complements the other. And so if a patient needs a particular kind of care that is not available in my hospital, then I can send them to your hospital and vice versa. And in doing so, not only are we going to be able to transform our continent, this is not just a Kenya thing, this is not just an East African thing. Not only do I think we can transform our continent, but we can create a space in Africa where people can lead a dignified life without the need of having to move. Because trust me, in my almost 2 years living abroad, I have come to learn that many of us leave Africa not because we really don't like Africa. Many of us leave Africa because we are forced to. Whether it is political stuff going on, whether it's economics, whether it's education, a lot of us leave against our will because sometimes opportunities they are out there that we will not find at home. So if we were able to transform our continent in such a way that everybody has the opportunity to lead a dignified life in Africa, I think we'd be talking about a whole different story here. So over the years, I've seen Facebook pages, I've seen WhatsApp group, I've seen all these forums that I create out there. And I'm not sure, and this might be a function of my lack of awareness, I'm not sure I have seen some really good forums where people can actually link up, network, support one another without all the drama that sometimes come with the groups getting together. And if you live in diaspora, you know that anytime you set up a group, whether it's a Facebook page, a WhatsApp group, and all that, it is anticipated that there'll be some amount of drama. And nobody likes drama, especially those of us who are slightly older now. Anybody above 40 and above, people don't like drama. People value their time, and if they're going to show up, it better be worth their time. And so I'm not just talking about creating some sort of like a random social media page where people get together and you're talking back and forth. I'm not sure that would be ideal. And so I'm thinking about some kind of a forum. I don't know what that is going to look like, but a forum that is focused, constructive, fun, and effective, especially in relation to the goals that people have. And so if you have some really good ideas out there, I'd love to hear from you. If there's a space somewhere where people are already doing this, I would love to learn more about it so we don't have to recreate the wheel again. If there's a forum somewhere that is really effective for people who have diaspora experience, share with us, let us learn. We can even simply copy and paste what's been done. But if it's not working out there, I'd love to see something. So this particular focused forum that I hope likely will revolve around these 4 ideas. Number one, I'm thinking about some kind of a forum where we can basically learn from each other. As I mentioned earlier, diasporans are very resourceful. Whether you think about people who are doing business, people who are in construction, people in healthcare, education, and people who are helping each other transition back to Kenya. I've seen some really good things out there. So I wish we had some kind of a repository or some kind of forum where people can just come and it is just a purely learning experience that works for people from diaspora. The second thing that I hope to see in whatever forum we come up with is a space where people can actually build connections that are meaningful. For those of us who live in North America, one of the things we learn is how to be superficial in connections. And we become so good at it, sometimes we don't even realize how much of that follows us when we come home. And unfortunately for many of us, by the time we return, most of the connections, or a lot of the connections we had prior, are already gone away. So most of us actually have a hard time reconnecting with friends that we had. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because life moves and people move on. And so when we get together, I'm hoping that these are some of the forums where people can really build authentic connection. In fact, I'm reminded of an experience we had through this meeting you're watching, of my wife, who had a very good connection with a neighbor who lives in the southern part of Africa. It turned out they have a lot in common, and they were really able to connect in ways that they would have not connected if there was no forum that we had. And so creating a space where people can build authentic connections, I think, would be helpful. And one thing that I've also learned, that diasporans also really understand each other. And it almost doesn't matter what country a person lives in. In this meeting, I talked to folks from almost 5 different countries. And I was doing that. I felt a very deep connection in ways that is difficult to have with people who have not lived in diaspora. Well, I've got amazing connections with people who live at home. But when you have diasporans together, there are certain things that people understand even without you explaining. Like, for example, when you're talking about your desire to come back home, somebody who's lived in diaspora for a while would automatically understand what you're talking about, for the most part, in ways that is not always possible for people who have never lived outside. So I'm hoping that there will be a space where people can have authentic connections. And then the third thing I'm hoping to see in such a forum is that through these connections, diasporans will be able to support each other's hustles, because most of us have some kind of a side hustle or a main hustle. For example, I've got friends who run restaurants, and diasporans always host parties all year round, especially in December. So I see a scenario where maybe my friend who owns a restaurant can bring their catering services to a party that we have, so that the money that I would have spent elsewhere still circulates within. That would be something that I would find interesting. Or those of us who are involved in consulting, whatever type of consulting, like myself, I do that with construction. If there are diasporans that need that, I'd be more than happy to help, so that we are supporting each other's hustle. A lot of us are into agribusiness. For example, for me, I produce a lot of eggs. And by the way, if you're looking for eggs, you've got my number. We actually deliver, especially within Kisumu and its environs. Sometimes we actually deliver as far as Nairobi. So yes, I've had cases where many of my friends within the diaspora community just come and buy eggs, not because I'm close by them, but they're buying my eggs because they're supporting my hustle. And then within our forum too, we also have matchmakers who do this professionally. There are a lot of single people within the diaspora community, and I'm sure they can benefit from such. So yes, creating a forum where diasporans can benefit from each other's hustles. And then number 4, I'm hoping that this forum too will be helpful to allow folks find better ways to give back to the community. Because nearly every single person from diaspora that I know somehow is involved in giving back to the community, whether it means paying school fees, supporting families, paying bills, getting involved with churches, schools, and things like that. There are more creative ways of doing that. For example, a friend of mine recently shared with me what he does with his mother. I think he puts some money in money market. And so whatever interest that money generates is what her mother uses per month. So he doesn't have to send money every single month to support her mother's upkeep. And so there are many creative ways of solving the same community issues we deal with. So I'm hoping that in this forum we can share and learn from that. And then of course there's leisure part. People come home to relax. People come home to let their hair down. People come home to connect with family and just to have a good time. So leisure is important. Nobody wants to come and have painful experiences and go back. That's not the point. And so some folks have figured out actually really creative spaces where fun happens. And so I'd love to hear those plugs. I'd love to get plugs about how to make traveling cost effective. Because sometimes I talk to my friends and they tell me they bought tickets for like $3,000 when I just bought a ticket for like $1,000. And when we talk and we share those little plugs, it makes life work. Those of us with kids would really love to learn from other parents as well. So In general, I honestly don't know what the future holds, but I dream about a world where people with diaspora can come home and really experience authentic communities where we feel a sense of belonging. Because again, one of the challenges of being a diasporan, quote unquote, is that you sort of don't fit 100% in diaspora and you don't fit 100% at home. And so in these spaces, this is where it feels more home than any other place, where we can experience these authentic connections and where we can actually use our combined financial muscles and other abilities to transform the communities we live in. Because I've come to learn that I can create paradise in my home, but if there's chaos and suffering outside my walls, then that world is going to be a tough world for everybody, including myself. So I'm hoping that diasporans can combine whatever we have to really transform our continent, not just our country. So anyway, this is not because we are just passionate about fixing our continent. Yes, we really are passionate about fixing Africa. But I also recognize that, and this is actually true to some degree, that in many spaces outside Africa, people don't want us. That's just the truth of it. Of course, there are many, many people that love Africans, for sure. But there are a lot of people out there who absolutely do not want us around them. And if you've been following politics, you probably know what I'm talking about. So, in many ways, some of them simply just tolerate us, in part because they know what they're getting from us. And trust me, nobody wants to be tolerated. So when I come home, for the most part, I'm relieved of that. So I hope you all will be willing to share creative ideas that we can get this done. And I hope something important is going to come through this that will help us figure out some of this bigger question. So thank you for listening. I know it's been a long video, but I really appreciate your time, and I will see you in the next. Thank you.